Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith, and today I'm talking about Senseless by Ronald Malfi. This is from Titan Books. This is the latest from Ronald Malfi. And I think I should just read the inside flap here. What do you see when the mutilated body of a young woman is discovered in the desert on the outskirts of Los Angeles? The detective assigned to the case can't deny the similarities between this murder, and one that occurred a year prior. Media outlets are quick to surmise this is the work of a budding serial killer, but Detective Bill Rennie is struggling with an altogether different scenario, a secret that keeps him tethered to the husband of the first victim. What do you hear? Maureen Park, newly engaged to Hollywood producer Greg Dawson, finds her engagement party crashed by the arrival of Landon, Greg's son. A darkly unsettling young man, Landon invades Maureen's new existence, and the longer he stays, the more convinced she becomes that he may have something to do with the recent murder in the high desert. What do you feel? Toby Campen, the self-proclaimed human fly, begins an obsession over a woman who is unlike anyone he has ever met. A woman with rattlesnake teeth and a penchant for biting. A woman who has trapped him in her spell. A woman who may or may not be completely human. There you go. So, for the too long didn't read or didn't watch folks, I gave this, I believe, 5 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. Or loved it, some might say. Ronald Malfi, fantastic author. I'm always excited when he has a new book coming out. Titan is even reprinting, I believe it's Titan, is reprinting some of his older stuff. A few things that I haven't even read, so it'll give me a chance to get my hands on them. And despite what I said a few weeks ago, well, probably more than a few weeks ago by the time this video comes out, this is not called Restless, it's Senseless. And it took me far too long to understand one of the connotations of the title. I think I can say, I don't think I'm giving anything away here. It starts with Detective Bill Rennie going out to the desert. He's been called out there because of this murder victim that has been found and because of its similarities to the case he worked a year before. And the victim has had the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and fingers all removed. And I don't know why it took me so long to realize that that's the 5 senses all removed, making the victims senseless. So, is that a spoiler? Again, it's right in the first few pages you learn about these things being removed, and hopefully no one else is as slow as I am to put it together. But anyway, Ronald Malfi, fantastic writer. The beginning of this book felt to me like a Silence of the Lambs kind of thing, with the detective going out, this gruesome murder, but it's in no way, well, I shouldn't say in no way similar to Silence of the Lambs, because it's a weird murder. But like, the detective isn't going and talking to someone that he put away before. I don't know. It just gave me that sort of feeling. And so, but we have these 3 separate-ish stories. We're following Bill Rennie as he's investigating the crime and learning about the murder from a year prior. And then we also have Maureen, and we meet her at the engagement party that's crashed by her fiance's son, Landon. And we don't know how this is going to connect to the Bill Rennie stuff. And then just double checking the name, Toby Campen, and we were following him and what's going on with him and this mysterious woman that he's met. And again, we don't know how it's going to connect to either of the other two stories. So it will all come together, but we're following these three different stories, and there's lots of red herrings as to what's going on and who has done what. And it kept me guessing, but then again, I may be a little slow, as we've figured out. So maybe it won't keep everybody guessing, but it kept me guessing. And we do have some flashback stuff. There is a point where we go all the way back a year to that original murder and learn a lot of stuff that happened there. And it's sort of, well, it's relentless, not restless. I was restless. Just a great pace. Bill Rennie, fantastic character, a flawed character. His wife had passed away previous to the events of the book, and it's might be affecting how he is doing his job. And some other characters I don't want to talk about, but really, really interesting characters. Maureen, I like a lot. She has some OCD, and I think it's treated well. Others may disagree with me. I'm not an expert though, but I think it's well done. And she's I like her character a lot. Landon is an interesting character. Greg Dawson, Maureen's fiance, interesting character. The Toby Campen stuff is very interesting because of his character and because of how he sees things. I'm trying to avoid spoilers as always, but when we're focused on him, it's things, the world itself sort of takes on a different perspective. As it says, he's the self-proclaimed human fly, and that makes sense as you read what's going on. And I don't know where that sentence was going to go. It's going to make sense, but it skews the perspective of the character. So, and we sort of, not necessarily from chapter to chapter, and not from, I think it's broken down into parts as well, if I remember correctly. But because part one is the high desert. So it's not the parts that change who we're following. Like the high desert isn't just following Bill Rennie, and then the next part isn't just following Maureen Park. We do from chapter to chapter, not necessarily a one-to-one basis, jump around to the different characters that we're following. And again, it left me guessing as to where is this character's story going to take us? How is it all going to tie together? Where is this character's story going? And how is it going to tie into everything else? I think the books, or the parts, mark major changes. Again, was it part or book? Let me check again. Part. So I think part one, High Desert, introduces us to everything. I think part two might be when we jump back a year, and then part three, we're back into the present. And then part four, I think, is really focuses on one character and sort of tells their story sort of goes back and tells their story. Hopefully I'm relatively clear when I'm talking about this. But as always, Ronald Malfi has basically knocked it out of the park with great characterization, an intriguing story that kept me reading. I did not want to put it down. Unfortunately, as always, I had to go to my day job. I have to sleep sometime. But other than that, I was, well, eating meals and things, but really spent my free time just digging into this book. Absolutely fantastic. And definitely different. One of the nice things about Malfi, at least from the stuff that I've read, which is less than half of what he's put out, it's all very different from each other. I think the last one I read was Blackmouth, which was a sort of a coming of age story with a format a little similar to It, where we're jumping back and forth between the characters as children and the characters as adults. Nothing like this, and that has plenty of different elements that are completely different than this. He's written some. He had a leisure book, Snow. That's the copy that I read, was the leisure copy, which very much a leisure book, straightforward, supernatural kind of thing. The kind of thing I think if I had read like the new edition, the later editions, I'd still think, wow, this reads just like a leisure horror book. So a very versatile author, I think is what I'm trying to say. And he's written some crime stuff. I think Shamrock Alley is a straight up crime book, but I haven't read that one yet, so I can't say for sure. So Ronald Malfi, just a fantastic writer. This is a fantastic book. Happy to see it's out in hardcover. Happy to see Ronald Malfi making a name for himself. Hopefully becomes maybe a household name. That would be nice. I'd love to see. I want all these authors that I love to be household names. But I think that's all that I have to say. Great characters, great story, intriguing mystery, lots of differing perspectives, and just a great read. Senseless by Ronald Malfi. All right. The recommendations for this video, well, anything else by Ronald Malfi. He's got quite a few from Titan that I have in a stack over there that I can't wait to get to, but I like to mix things up. I don't want to read a bunch of Ronald Malfi in a row, or any other author. I try to avoid reading bunches of their stuff in a row. I like to mix it up. I have thousands of books to read, but he's a guy that tends to gravitate towards the top of the to-be-read pile. So yeah, anything else, if you can pick up some Ronald Malfi, pick it up. Give it a read. If you've never read Red Dragon or Silence of the Lambs, they are completely different types of books, except for the whole crime thing. But as I said, just that sort of opening scene gave me that Thomas Harris, Red Dragon, Silence of the Lambs kind of feeling. So maybe check those out if you've never read them. I actually like Red Dragon more than Silence of the Lambs, but I think that's a case of my tendency to like the first thing more. It's not always the case, but I prefer, my favorite Terminator movie is the first one. My favorite Star Wars movie is the very first one that came out. But there are exceptions. The first Brian Keene I read was The Rising, but that's not my favorite Brian Keene novel. But yeah, I don't know. I like Red Dragon a little bit more than Silence of the Lambs, but they're both great books in my opinion. So, and again, very different than this, but that opening scene gave me that feeling, so that's why I would recommend those. I've sort of fallen off the serial killer bandwagon. I used to be interested in reading anything that had like a profiler or anything. And that's one of the reasons I wouldn't actually compare this to Thomas Harris books, is that profiling is really not a thing in here. That's really a big focus of Red Dragon and Silence of the Lambs. Not at all in here. But it's still a great mystery. Lots of interesting forensics and things. And there you go. I don't know what else to say. So, yeah, there you go. There's my recommendations. I don't have a question for this video. Except maybe, let's go with, have you read Red Dragon and Silence of the Lambs? Which one do you prefer? I've already answered that question, so let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, I'll have links for my Instagram and Bluesky in the description below. That's all I've got. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith. And until next time, read more books.